welcome. Welcome with us. All right, so today, very special day. We have the opportunity to have with us two speakers of very special interest. So we have Simonetta Loretti, who works for an international company as marketing director for global practices. Simonetta is an ICF coach. She's a PCC coach, an NLP practitioner, master practitioner, and she has also studied neuroscience, mindfulness, and the science of happiness. And in 2020, she founded the Brave Club, a digital community to support women empowerment. Simonetta, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting us.
And we also have Lucio Furlani. Lucio is the CEO of Crescendo, a business strategy, digital transformation, and go-to-market consulting firm. Lucio is on the board of directors of several companies and is a senior lecturer at some Italian and foreign universities. Previously, Lucio was the VP of Strategy and Marketing at Hewlett-Packard. Lucio, thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Andrea. Hello, everyone.
Thank you both for your availability. It's great to have you with us. And we decided, we really wanted to have a conversation with you because we saw that the launch of the new book, your new book, Fast Forward Your Career, which I found a very, very interesting endeavor. It's a little bit of a business fairy tale or storytelling, but what I really like is that it addresses some of the core, I would say, challenges that someone who's in a career track nowadays has to address in a digital environment, and an environment with increasing levels of chaos and complexity. And so it's been really interesting for me to read it and to see how, throughout the storytelling, you're able to touch, you're able to touch elements like, the core skills which are required in nowadays a working environment to really fast forward your career, and coming from someone like the two of you with strong business experience, and also kind of like an overview of different industry sectors and different businesses. I found the book really valuable. And I think it's a great book personally for both, MBA students. I think, it's full of very useful tips and tricks about how to really fast forward your career, and practical examples as well, really actionable ideas. But I think it's also a book that makes a difference for whoever wants to make a career transition at work. So someone that really is looking forward towards, senior management positions and executive positions. It's one of those books that, I think I would have liked to have a book like this, something like 10 years ago. So thank you again for being with us. And today we're going to have a little bit of a conversation about the book. Because I'm specifically interested, as you can imagine, in a couple of elements, which is what is the role that coaching and emotional intelligence play in fast forwarding someone's career in the modern business environment. But before we go there, I just wanted to ask you and hear from your direct, I would say, voice. What was, the original idea of this book born? How was it born? And where is this coming from? What was the original idea behind it?
Okay, so I can take this one. And
right.
Again, thank you for inviting here today. So the book was born in front of the pizza. We ask ourselves is what aspiring leaders needed to succeed and progress in their career in the digital age. So the straight answer was they need interdisciplinary skills. So if you look at the book market, there are many, many books, right? And they're all valuable books. And there are books about mindset, there are books about execution, communication, performance. All of them have a vertical approach. And it's left to readers to make connections, to create the line among dots, among skills, understand how one topic area is connected to the other, how skills are connected together. And this is a very, I would say, difficult thing. It's not easy, right? So our, goal here is to support, to contribute to everyone's career progression through a handbook that is able to address this need. So like creating a horizontal perspective, connecting dots among different skills, interdisciplinary skills. And as you mentioned before, there is also a business novel here, right? So the idea is not just to, let's say, share theories, it's just to support the practice. You know that between theory and practice, there is always a gap. So the idea was to support the development of skills, providing also some good examples. And we did it through a business novel and through interviews to successful leaders that could share their unique experience and share what they have learned by doing. So I don't know if Lucio wants to add anything here.
No, Simonetta, thank you. You said it very well. And Andrea also described the book very, very well at the beginning. The purpose was really to provide something practical. And the story helps you connect the theory to what happens in real life, right? The story is realistic, it's not real, but is realistic. And I'm sure many of you will, if you read the book, will find situations that are familiar to you, that you have lived in your professional career.
Yeah, I find that a very interesting part of the book because, the story is the story of this lady, Catherine, who moves from being, in marketing analytics to be the head of a digital transformation department. And I really like, how she goes through uncertainty and then has to make decisions, build trust in the team, but also trust in her coming in and taking this new role and navigating a network of stakeholders at different levels. I think this sounds very realistic. So I am wondering that there is a lot of your personal experience in the story and the examples themselves. And I find it a book of, really about meaningful conversations, because a big part of Catherine's learning comes through having conversations with some of these key stakeholders at work. And I would say in a work environment, which is, some of the features of the modern business environment. And probably my second question is exactly about that. So if you had to crystallize what has really changed in the last few years that made it necessary for someone like Catherine to learn, new skills or skills such as coaching, emotional intelligence, how to build trust and so on, what would you say are these main conditions which have changed?
Yeah, of course, a lot has changed, right? Even before COVID. Now, COVID has dramatically accelerated everything. But even before that, there were a lot of changes happening. And we always live in the situation where we feel like changes are accelerating, right? Never slowing down, always getting more and more momentum. There's this term that I'm sure you're familiar with called VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. I think it's a good description, right, of what has been happening for the last number of years. Just take velocity. I remember that already years ago, I was reading an interview with Bill Gates, and he said that every day I wake up in the morning thinking that Microsoft, as healthy as Microsoft is, we are always to hear from potentially bankruptcy, because things can change so fast that myself as a leader, I always need to be on the edge and look at what's happening and the changes that are affecting me and my business. Now, of course, with COVID, right? I mean, you're talking about emotional intelligence. What are the implications of which type of emotional intelligence skills do you need to have now as compared to 2 years ago, now that you are meeting all your colleagues, your boss, your customers, your partners, 99% through a platform like Zoom. Zoom is great, like Teams and so forth, but it's very different, right? So emotional intelligence is still fundamental. How you articulate it is a bit different, right? You typically the body language.
Right.
Through the video, you can see the body language, but it's not the same perception, right? So
yeah, I see in the book you touch several times the idea of digital empathy, right? How do you create that level of connection even through digital means? Probably I'd be interested because I mean, coaching has been introduced in the business world really to help leaders to address these challenges, right? And so nowadays is a little bit much more mainstream than it used to be to have a coach supporting important career transitions. But what I understand from your book is that you also advise leaders to develop coaching skills. And actually what I wanted to ask you is, you know, based on your experience, how do you believe that coaching skills can really fast forward someone's career's transitions in a VUCA environment like the one such as you described?
Well, actually, coaching is very helpful in several ways, right? So coaching can support the ability to create trust, can support team working, can support communication, can support the identification of your own purpose. However, for me, skill number one developed by the coaching is the ability to listen. The ability to listen is the foundation to many other skills. The ability to listen, you can see it from different perspectives. You can look at it from the inside out and from the outside in. So the ability to listen to yourself, and so to support self-awareness, for example, the discovery of your inner purpose, right? Or the ability to listen to others in an attentive, open, and unbiased way. And this is important to other skills, such as empathy, such as emotional intelligence, such as trust. And in coaching, we say trust-based relationship, like rapports, right? And in communication, teamwork. So actually, the ability to listen is so important and is so difficult to develop. So studying and practicing coaching is so important in the digital age, where everything is more fluid, more open, more flexible, and more inclusive. We need to develop the ability to listen to others. And because we are in a remote mode, we need to develop our ability to feel, to see, to hear in a different way, through a screen, actually, right? So number one skill for me, it's the ability to listen, and it's definitely developed through coaching.
I see. So coaching is really an enabler of a series of core skills, starting from listening and being in contact with the system, if I understand correctly, around you and within you as well, right?
Exactly.
May I share a personal story, Andrea?
That'd be great, yes.
One of the customers I'm working for right now is a big company. It's actually $20+ billion revenue worldwide, globally. So it's a large corporation. They do not have an org chart. When I started collaborating with them, right, was one of the first questions that you ask as a consultant to understand what's the landscape around you, right? Who are the stakeholders? Can you please share an org chart? We do not have. Well, what do you mean? Right. So it was a very surprise answer to me. And fundamentally, building on what Simonetta just said, the organization, well, some organizations in some companies are now incredibly fluid. And the leadership is not really something that is written in an org chart anymore, but it is contextual, depends on your ability, your skills, a lot of the skills that Simonetta just mentioned, and the fact that you are in the best position to lead this particular project, this particular initiative. You may not be in the same best position for the next project. Yeah.
Right. I see this as a big trend and big change in organization, moving towards, flexible hierarchies and structures, more, with sometimes with decentralized powers and authority, and new governance models, such, like the teal models, or humanocracy, sociocratic, and more agile ways of making decisions. And but I was thinking in all this context, and with all these changes, often the theme is, how do we find unity, right? When the structure is not the typical hierarchy, is not what it used to be, and roles maybe are more flexible and fluid. How do we find unity? And I see in your book you touching often the topic of purpose and the importance of purpose. I would say even the purpose of leadership itself. There is a beautiful story. Maybe I can read a bit of a passage from the book, because there is in your book there are also several interviews, with a bit of a direct experience. And there is a beautiful interview to Maria Letizia Mariani, Chief Commercial Officer at Signify, and she tells a bit of a personal story, which I'd like to ask you to comment about. She says one of the roles she had in the past was to train, if I remember, to train a sports team, a swimming team of young girls. And then she was faced one day with the challenge of having to choose which girls to put in a team for a competition. And she said, one of the main mistakes I did was to not put on the team the youngest girl, because I thought that could bring the overall performance down. And then she says, and I then tortured myself and wondered why I did so. Did I so for the others, or did I do so for myself? And she says, I made the wrong choice because I chose the thing that set my personal goal without thinking about what my purpose or my true purpose was. To train and develop girls and give them opportunities, recognize the path of a young athlete who had put a lot of effort and had grown up. And so I think this is a beautiful life experience, but also a bit of a metaphor of many trade-offs that at work leaders needs to do. What is my true purpose? Is it only about delivering results, or there is more? Is it about developing young generations, developing people, creating a learning culture? And I just wanted to have your comments about this story and actually what signifies for you and why you decided to include this in your book.
Yeah, no, it's a beautiful story. You're absolutely right. Few thoughts. As managers, it's very easy. Maybe we think we need to be good coaches. We are trained about it, right? And we try our best, but it's so easy to cross the border and become a mentor instead of a coach. It's so much easier. Probably is also more self-fulfilling, because you feel like you're delivering value, right, to a person. And frankly, it's much quicker, right? I just tell you how you need to do it. Very simple. So in this particular situation, Maria Letizia's boss managed to avoid that mistake, right? She said, Letizia, it's your choice. You are the coach. You need to make the decision. And Letizia made the wrong decision in that particular situation, which is okay. Actually is very good, not okay, because she was able to learn from the mistake. She understood later she made a mistake, and she capitalized on it. This mistake happened. I forgot. Letizia was very young at the time. Maybe she was 18, something like that. So now, 40 years later, she still remembers it. And when we ask her, hey, can you mention a mistake in your life, in your career? That's the mistake she wanted to tell us. So 40 years later, still vivid, right, in her memory. So yeah, in the interview, really, Letizia talks a lot about responsibility.
Right.
When you are promoted, maybe to a manager or to an even more senior role, well, you're very proud, of course, right? But then you need to understand that actually this is not a job title, it's not an entitlement. You are taking on a responsibility to develop others. And this is not just a missionary statement. Also, as a manager, you're supposed to do the best for your company, and the best for your company is to develop the team of talents that work in the company. But sounds obvious if you say that way, but when you are in the real life every day, it's not so obvious, right? With a pressing agenda.
I would add something here. The concept of leader and leadership has changed, right? So from the 20th century leadership, bossy leadership style, to the true leadership style, where the leader, a part of being good with execution and business acumen, is the person that is able to bring the best out of people, to motivate them, to inspire by example, and to boost their potential. So in this open organization, the leader is a sort of orchestra director, is a person that orchestrates teams, and that has the responsibility to inspire people, not in a hierarchical way, but in a functional way based on the need. And this is the big change, I think. Responsibility here is important. It's not just the responsibility towards your hierarchical team, is an open responsibility towards people around you. And this is another important concept that I think we need to digest and practice.
You know, I can really connect with the idea of this wider responsibility, right? It's not just responsibility for the bottom line, but it's a wider responsibility involving, you know, all the circles around you towards then, you know, the biggest circle, which is the wider system that nourishes every one of us and that connects every one of us. Right.
Exactly.
I want to say one thing to, you know, our audience, because we're going to have a little bit of time to ask questions to Simonetta and Lucio. So if you want to start popping your questions in the chat box, I'll go back to them and then pick the ones that we have time to answer. But before we go to questions, there is one more question which I want to ask you, because I see this theme of responsibility comes strong, you know, within your book and also in the interview that we just talked about. And of course, responsibility comes into play when we're about to make decisions which may involve some risks, and often the risk of making mistakes. And so my question for you is, what would be your take on making mistakes, and what is the role that mistakes play in fast forwarding someone's career?
Yeah, fundamental role. Yes, it reminds me of a sentence from Nelson Mandela. He said at some point in time, I never lose, either I win or I learn. So as long as you're able to learn from the mistakes, it's actually mistakes are jewels, as a gold mine of opportunities for learning and improving. But this brings me maybe to another interview that we have in the book, Andrea, with Marco Iraldis, the former CEO for the Benetton Group. And well, a pretty rich interview, I would say. And Marco says, look, when I interview for hiring someone, of course, I look at accomplishments, I look at their degrees and their career and so on and so forth. But they really care about how they learn from mistakes, because sooner or later, everybody makes mistakes. And for me, it's very important how anti-fragile you are and how good you are in learning from a mistake and getting back up again, possibly in a better shape, because this will happen. So that is using really a lot of interviews, apparently, for new candidates on the mistakes they made and how they could get out of really problematic situation. And he puts this really from a risk perspective. So if I'm interviewing you, I assume you're good, otherwise you would not be in front of me here for the interview. But I really care what's the risk that I take if I hire you, because sooner or later you will be in problems. How quickly and smartly you will get out of the problem. That's the thing. If I do not have this level of certainty, then probably it's too high a risk to hire you in my organization. I do not know how you will react in these bad situations.
I see in the interview of Iraldi, I see he says kind of like asking about mistakes and failures is almost like his killer question in job interviews, right? Because if someone always had like a super brilliant track, never had to deal with failure, that it's a high risk investment for the company, because what's going to happen when the person makes a failure for the first time?
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Good. I just want to leave participants the chance to either to write any question or comments into the chat box, or to open the microphone if they want. And then we'll move towards the end. I see we have Henrik. Henrik is asking, how do we create an organizational culture that allows mistakes and or promotes learning from mistakes? There's a $1 million question for the two of you to unpack in a few minutes. It's a good question.
Yeah, let me say the opposite is very easy to do, right? It's the natural tendency. Mistakes, fundamentally, if you think about it, right, since when we were kids, normally you make a mistake, you are punished somehow, right? Your mother was punishing you, your father, your parents, or you're at school and so forth. So, and very easy to go into that trap and say, okay, you made a mistake, you need to fix it and avoid it again in the future. This is, of course, diminishing your risk propensity, right? And fundamentally, I would say, Henrik, you should try to do the opposite and accept the mistakes as a natural fact of taking risk and trying something new. And it has to do with the culture of the organization and with how the whole leadership team behaves in front of these situations. I've been in organizations where sometimes mistakes were rewarded. Now, maybe that's too much, maybe, don't know. But anyway, there are some organizations who also do that.
Let me build on it. If I think at the growth mindset, all mistakes are part of the journey, right? And they can they should be analyzed and debriefed afterward, just to understand the lesson learned. And this should be a practice in order to build a new mindset that is more open to learn from mistakes in order to progress faster. There are books. There is a book in particular called Fail Faster, Learn Faster, right? So the idea to create a culture where you can openly develop, discuss discuss lesson learned and develop a sort of anti-fragile skill, a growth mindset skill, is something that is not it's not easy, but I think we need it, and is important to start building.
Thank you, Simonetta. And I've noticed, you speak a lot about anti-fragility, right? This idea of becoming even stronger after a rupture or a failure. And maybe that connects also with Letitia's question. She writes, vulnerability and flexibility. How much these two skills are important today in leaders' professional and personal development, and how can they be developed? That's probably the last question we can take for you to unpack. Okay.
So flexibility is important in the digital age, because everything is changing. So if we have a fixed approach, if we work or see the world based on the past, actually we cannot progress. Everything is changing. We need to be flexible. We need to be agile, right? Try, fail, learn, and develop new skill is the way to progress. Be positive, be creative is another way to face the uncertainty. And do it quickly, because, well, things are changing very, very quickly. So again, I think the approach we mentioned before is the must-have here, and asking for help, being authentic, and share our maybe question mark limit is also a way to progress, because we can get support from others and be stronger thanks to everyone's support.
And I think this is a little bit the key of success of the character of your business fairy tale, right, Catherine? Because I think she's a leader capable of being vulnerable, not faking invulnerability, and therefore accessing, the support conversations she can access in her network, even when it's tough, which is probably one of her best skills. We're going towards the end of our time, but maybe just as a way to close, it would be interesting to ask you, what would you say are the top 3 learned lessons that you want to share with the participants today, or whoever is listening to the videocast?
So let me start first. I would say lesson number 1 is develop the ability to listen, and to become a true leader. And develop interdisciplinary skills, and get the broad picture, the big picture.
Nice.
Lucio, do you want to add one more?
You one of the 3. I would add probably the attitude that you show every day, and how much you remain positive and encouraging and engaging for your team. That plays a big role.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. I also want to say, I've got the English version of Fast Forward Your Career, but I see that we have many Italian participants, right? So just for people to know, the Italian edition is about to be published, right? With another title.
It's already out there. So it's already published by Oakley, and the title is Diventa leader nell'era digitale.
Okay. I really want to thank you, from my heart, for being with us in this conversation. I think this is one of the conversations that do make a difference. And we hope to have you with us again, maybe for your next book. Thank you very much to the 2 of you, Lucio and Simonetta. And also thank you to all the participants who has been with us for this last half an hour. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you,
you.
Andrea.
Bye.